Europe is burning, not because of war, not because of wildfires alone, but because of a relentless heat wave that has turned cities into furnaces and ordinary summer days into a fight for survival. Across the continent, people are abandoning parks and beaches to hide indoors. Streets that are usually packed with tourists are falling silent during the afternoon. Hospitals are treating thousands and thousands of patients suffering from dehydration and heat stroke. Roads are buckling under the scorching summer. Train services are slowing down and firefighters are battling fresh blaze almost every single day. From France and Spain to Italy, Germany, Hungary, Portugal, and several other countries, temperatures have climbed well above seasonal averages. In fact, in many places, the mercury has crossed 40 degrees Celsius, while some towns have experienced the hottest days ever recorded. Now, here comes the most worrying part. The World Health Organization believes Europe must stop treating these heat waves as rare weather events. Instead, it says governments should prepare for them every year, just as they prepare hospitals and healthcare system for annual winter flu season. The message is simple but alarming. Extreme heat is no longer an exception. It is becoming Europe's new reality. Well, this year's heat wave has spread across much of Europe, affecting millions of people and pushing governments into emergency mode. Starting with France, which has been among the hardest hit nations. Several regions in France witnessed temperatures climbing beyond 40 degrees Celsius. Cities that are usually bustling during summer afternoons suddenly appear deserted as authorities urged residents to remain indoors. Schools temporarily suspended classes in some areas, while hospitals reported a growing number of patients suffering from heat exhaustion, dehydration, and respiratory problems. Now, French health authorities estimate that around 1,000 excess deaths were recorded during the recent heat wave period, with elderly people accounting for the largest share of the victims. In fact, officials continue to study the full impact, warning that the final toll could rise as more data becomes available. In fact, France's neighbor, Spain, is facing an equally serious situation. The country has endured weeks of intense heat, with weather stations recording temperatures well above normal. Public health officials in Spain also say that more than 1,000 deaths have been linked to the extreme weather. Wildfire warnings remain in place across large parts of the country as dry vegetation and powerful winds increase the danger of rapid spreading of fires. Italy is also experiencing another difficult summer as rivers continue to shrink under prolonged heat and limited rainfall. Farmers there are struggling with water shortages, raising concerns over agriculture production and food supply chains. In fact, several cities have issued the highest level heat alerts, particularly for older adults, children, and people with chronic illnesses. Then comes Germany, which has also been severely impacted. The country's transport network has faced growing pressure as railway tracks expanded in the intense heat, forcing operators to slow trains in several regions for safety reasons. High temperatures have also increased electricity demand while putting additional stress on power infrastructure in these areas. Now, Hungary, which also witnessed an unusual consequence of the heat. The Parch nuclear plant, which produces a significant share of country's electricity, had to reduce power generation because the Danube River's water became too warm for effective cooling. Now, after these nations, Belgium, Poland, Portugal, Switzerland, Austria, and parts of the Balkans have also reported unusually high temperatures, placing emergency services on a very high alert. In fact, scientists say these events are no longer isolated. According to climate researchers, human-driven climate change is making heat waves both more frequent and more intense. Weather patterns that were once expected only once every few decades are now appearing almost every summer. Owing to the prevailing conditions for many Europeans, summer is no longer simply a holiday season. It is increasingly becoming a season of survival. As temperatures continue to climb, authorities across Europe introduced emergency measures rarely seen on such a large scale. Now, one of the most visible responses has been installation of public water misting systems. Across many European countries, powerful sprinklers have been set up in busy public squares, shopping streets, and tourist destinations. fine sprays of water have become a temporary escape for residents and visitors trying to cool down under the blazing sun. In fact, some areas even deployed fire engines to spray water in crowded areas, helping reduce temperatures where large number of people gathered for different reasons. Cooling centers have been opened across many European cities. Libraries, community halls, sports centers, and other public buildings have been converted into air-conditioned shelters where elderly residents, pregnant women, and people without adequate cooling at home can spend hottest hours of the day. Now, local volunteers have also stepped in. Many have been delivering drinking water to homeless people while checking regularly on elderly neighbors who are considered most vulnerable during such heatwave season. Well, children have also not been forgotten either. Several local authorities installed temporary inflammable pools and water play zones inside neighboring parks and community spaces. As playground equipment became too hot to touch, these pools offer families a safe way to escape the heat. In fact, public fountains have turned into gathering places as children and tourists splash through the water seeking relief. Not only this, but swimming pools across several countries extended their opening hours, while public parks increase access to shaded area wherever and whenever possible. Authorities have repeatedly advised citizens to avoid outdoor activities during the hottest part of the day. Wear loose and light-colored clothing, drinking water frequently, and never leave children or pets inside parked vehicles. Now, the World Health Organization believes emergency responses are saving lives, but it also says they are no longer enough. According to the WHO, Europe needs permanent heat health action plans rather than temporary emergency responses every summer. The organization argues that governments should prepare for heat waves with same seriousness as they prepare hospitals for seasonal influenza. Well, that means creating better early warning system, expanding cooling centers before heat arrives, redesigning cities with more trees and green spaces, improving hospital readiness, and most importantly, educating people about the dangers of extreme temperatures. Well, the WHO warns heat should now be viewed as a predictable public health threat rather than an unpredictable weather emergency. Now, multiple reports and experts say many European countries have already reduced heat-related deaths through improved warning systems and public awareness campaigns. However, significant gaps remain. Many cities still lack sufficient cooling shelters, while millions of homes continue to trap heat because they were originally designed for Europe's traditional cold winters rather than increasingly hot summers. Well, for decades, European homes were built to keep warmth inside during long winters rather than remove heat during increasingly hot summers. Thick walls, smaller windows, and limited cooling system worked well and perfectly in the past. Today, they often trap heat inside homes, turning apartments into ovens during prolonged heat wave season. Well, the result is millions of Europeans are now reconsidering whether air conditioning has become a necessity rather than a luxury for that part of the world. However, this very solution creates another challenge for the climate. Greater use of air conditioners mean higher electricity consumption, placing additional pressure on power grids that are already operating under intense demand. Now, environmental experts also warn that unless powered by clean energy, expanding air conditioning use could increase greenhouse gas emissions, further contributing to global warming. Well, looking at the situation, scientists now believe Europe has entered a new climate era, and things will get tougher with each passing day. Well, with that, it's a wrap on today's edition of From the News Desk. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm Yash Goyal, signing off for Times Now Digital. Until next time, take care and keep watching this space for more such videos.